Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today the Houston Texans lose to the Baltimore Ravens 34-10 in the AFC divisional round. I know this is a little bit after the playoff loss where the Texans lose 34-10, and sorry if my voice is a little down. There's been a lot of emotions over the last couple hours. I mean, since this loss, still so proud of this team, even though they lost and they've been eliminated and they just got their butts kicked, but still proud of everything that this team did throughout the season. I'll tell you what's even worse is that having to watch your team in the playoffs while sick, because I've been sick since I think Tuesday or Wednesday. The cold weather in Houston kind of got me. I've had a bad cough, and there's a couple things that suck about being sick when your team's in the playoffs. Number one, you can't really watch the game with anybody. Number two, also, when you scream, if it's a good scream or a bad scream, like when Steven Sims had the 67-yard punt return touchdown, oh my God, the screams after that are the mistakes that were made, calls made by the refs. I'll tell you what, after the Steven Sims punt touchdown, I was coughing for most of the halftime show. But, like I said, I'm so proud of this team. I wish I could have watched it with some other fellow Texans fans instead of just being in a room watching it by myself because, I'm sick. But like I said, I'm so proud of this team and what they accomplished through the season. Not even expected to make it to the playoffs, expected to be one of the worst teams in the AFC. I didn't even think they would be. I'm not going to go ahead and tell you, oh, yeah, I expected this from the Texans, because anybody expected this amount of success for this team. I don't believe anybody that says that. I expected success from this team, but not the success we saw this team have this year. I don't think anybody expected the success that we've seen from CJ Stroud this season. You cannot tell me that you saw that coming, of what he did and what he accomplished throughout the season. I've never seen a rookie do that. I've been watching the NFL since 2016. I've never seen a rookie do that. I know I wasn't around for the timeline when a guy like Andrew Luck was a rookie, but I watched a guy like Justin Herbert as a rookie. I've watched Patrick Mahomes in his first year as a starter. I've watched those guys. I've watched his first year as a starter as well. I've never seen from what I saw from CJ Stroud this season, and I'm just really proud of this team and the way they fought throughout the season. And I can't wait for the future. This team has so much money to spend, and there are going to be players that are going to want to come to the H-Town because they want to join CJ Stroud and what's going on with Houston. They want to team up with D'Amico and CJ. And the Texans, believe it or not, they have the money to spend at $72 million. They have the fourth out of all teams. They have the fourth most money to spend out of all teams in the NFL. So, yeah, they're gonna have the opportunities to bring in some guys, maybe make some trades. I would say improve the offensive line, maybe get a wide receiver. People act like that's a big need, but look what we saw for Nico Collins. It's going to be great to have Tank Dell. I like to add in a third wide receiver next to those two guys, but I don't feel like that's our biggest need. I feel like we can improve the defense, because there was a lot of defensive mistakes that I noticed today that, sure, the defense was great at times. Look how good the defense was against Cleveland, but there was a lot of bad mistakes I felt like this defense made today, and that all can't be blame towards the players. Maybe there needs to be some blame towards the coaching staff in a very bad situation, hard place to play on the road in the playoffs. But it's that's something those guys have never done. I mean, sure, look, they did great last week, but that was at home. This is they've never. Some of these guys, they've never played on the road in the playoffs. I'm sure last week you could have said, oh, well, they never played in the playoffs in general. Well, they were at home. So I'm proud of what these guys have done. I tell you what, it would have been better if this loss was a closer loss. It makes it a little bit worse that we lost by 24 points. If we would have lost by like 7 in the 7 margin, or 7 or less, or 8 or less, it would have felt a little bit better if this was a little bit of a closer. I mean, it doesn't even have to be 7 or 8. I mean, even if this was even if this was a 10-point ball game at the end of the game, I would have been fine with that. But just losing by 24, it's really tough. But this is a tough Ravens defense. I mean, this is Lamar Jackson, the MVP. So they have given some beatdowns to some teams, some good teams too. I mean, like, look at the Miami Dolphins. They had it worse than us. They beat the Dolphins 56-19 in Week 17. I won't go ahead and say the 49ers had it worse than us, but I feel like for the 49ers being the 49ers, you know how good they are, I would go ahead and say that was a little disappointing. They lost, like, I believe the final score was 34-19. Yeah, I mean, the Ravens defense has been really tough this year. I mean, the Lions, look, they're in the divisional round. They only scored 3 points against this Ravens defense. This Ravens defense is really underrated, and the Browns get so much credit. Oh, they're the best defense in the NFL. I really do 100% believe the best defense in the NFL is the Ravens. Sure, stats will say the Browns are the best defense in the NFL, and that very well could be true, but I think the toughest defense in the NFL are the Baltimore Ravens. Let's go to the scoring summary in this game. First quarter was 2 field goals. It was a field goal fest in the first quarter. It was only 2, but it was back and forth. Justin Tucker, 53-yard field goal, 3-0. And then Kaimi Fairbairn, 50-yard field goal, 3-3. And then Lamar Jackson throws a 3-yard touchdown pass to Nelson Aguilar. It's 10-3. Steven Sims has a 67-yard punt return. It's 10-10. Lamar Jackson has a 15-yard touchdown run. It's 17-10 in the third quarter. Then entering the fourth, Lamar Jackson throws a 15-yard touchdown pass to Isaiah Likely. It's 24-10. Lamar Jackson has an 8-yard touchdown run. It's 31-10. And then Justin Tucker with a 43-yard field goal. Game leader, C.J. Stroud, 19 for 33, 175 passing yards. Lamar Jackson, 16 for 22, 152 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Rushing yards, Devin Singletary, 9 carries, 22 yards. This run game could not get it going. Lamar Jackson, 11 carries for 100 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. He had 252 total yards for 4 total touchdowns. Nico Collins led the Texans in receiving with 5 receptions for 68 receiving yards, while Zay Flowers had 4 receptions for 41 receiving yards. Going over some other stats, C.J. Stroud ran for 9 yards. DeRay and Galloway ran for 7. Damian Pierce didn't do anything. So we're so surprised by that. Justice Hill, 13 carries for 66 rushing yards. Gus Edwards for 10 carries and 40 rushing yards. Dalvin Cook for 8 carries and 23 rushing yards. Besides Nico, Singletary, he wasn't very active in the run game, but Stroud was throwing the ball to him, and he threw the ball to him early, and I felt like that was the only, outside of Collins, it was really Stroud really, besides Nico and Singletary, really didn't get to anybody else. Schultz, I guess, but, Singletary, 5 receptions, 48 receiving yards, 6 targets. Dalton Schultz, 5 receptions for 43 receiving yards, 7 targets. Durango Galloway, 1 reception for 13 receiving yards. And Robert Woods with 1 reception for 6 receiving yards. 2 receptions for -3 receiving yards for Xavier Hutchinson. And Brevin Jordan had 0 receptions for 0 yards. 1 target, which was nearly an interception. Damian Pierce fumbled in this game, was only fumble, but he recovered his own fumble. That was on a kickoff. Texans defensive stats, 70 total tackles for the Texans today, and 7 for Steven Nelson and Christian Harris, 6 for Jalen Petrie, 5 for the following players: Desmond King II, Jonathan Gennard, DeAndre Houston Carson, Denzel Perryman, Derek Barnett, 4 for Blake Cashman, 3 for the following players: Sheldon Rankings, Henry To'o, Kurt Heinisch, Derek Stingley Jr., 2 for D'Angelo Ross, 1 for the following players: Malik Collins, Khalil Davis, Majay Sanders, Will Anderson Jr., Nevele Hewitt, Jake Hansen, Brevin Jordan, 3 sacks, one for Desmond King the second, one for Blake Cashman, and one for Kurt Hinish. And 9 tackles for loss, 1 tackle for loss for Christian Harris, 2 for Desmond King the second, 1 for Jonathan Grenard, 1 for Derek Burnett, 2 for Blake Cashman, and 1 for Kurt Hinish, 1 for Will Anderson Jr. That really wraps up this game. No interceptions in this one. Ravens had 0 sacks. They had 3 tackles for loss. That wraps up the Texans season. I enjoyed covering the Texans throughout the season, and this is not a goodbye because I'm going to still continue talking about the Texans. It's not like, see you next season, because there's going to be a lot of offseason there's going to be offseason tea to heat up for this team with free agency and potential moves that they will make. I don't think we'll have to worry about Bobby Slowick becoming a head coach anymore. I could be wrong, but after this terrible offensive performance, I know it was a road playoff game against this Ravens defense, but maybe Bobby Slowick might get less interaction for head coach, which I know that's not a good thing for him, but I'm not too mad about that, to be honest. So it was one thing I was thinking about when I knew it was over, when this game was over and we kept getting our butts kicked. And I was like, well, our offense is struggling. I guess that means Bobby Slowick probably won't become a head coach. I'm like, well, it's not too much of a bad thing because I really like him as our offensive coordinator, and I don't want that to change. Let me know your thoughts on the loss of the Texans as the video begins. Enjoy it, and peace out. Go Texans.